I'll see some young guys and I see them do the, oh, look, there's a fat lady in a scooter, thinking I'm just in the audience or whatever. They're just making fat jokes, I can tell. And then I go up. It's my turn to go up and I just blast that room.
Mm-hmm.
And then I just see the faces change like, whoa, like I wasn't expecting that from her. So there
Yeah.
is that element that I've got a big surprise for you if you think whatever your assumptions are about me sitting here.
Welcome back to the Own Your Awkward podcast. I'm your host, Andy Vargo, and every episode we get into what has made our guests vulnerable and how they've learned how to own their awkward in order to live their best life. Stay tuned so you can hear every awkward moment in today's show. Hey friends, welcome back to another episode of the Own Your Awkward podcast. Today is one of the most unique episodes we've had so far because we, for the first time ever, are bringing back a guest who's been on before, and I couldn't do it with anybody other than my comedy bestie, my just amazing friend. We do so many things together, Cheri Hardman. Cheri, welcome back. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you for having me. I love talking with you. So this
I
should
know. I
be
feel
fun.
like sometimes our conversations are just like a podcast episode throughout a
Right.
regular day.
I know.
We just need a camera to follow us around sometimes.
Right.
Yeah.
Well,
So we don't know how this is going to go because we've had some conversations about awkward before. We're stirring up the format, but you were my very first guest.
wow. How do you know how long ago that
It
was?
was September of 2018.
Wow.
Yeah. So and I think back around the journey we've both taken and what we were doing in comedy and where we were at, and also where our relationship was back then. Like we didn't know each other nearly as well
Right.
as we do now.
Right.
So,
Wow.
and one of my goals with bringing people back is twofold. One is, we talked about what you shared back then, and we talked about your comedy journey, and one of the things that you really highlighted for people who haven't listened, go back, listen. It's episode 1. It's a great episode. Back then, I was using different technology, so I feel like we can have a much better conversation now. But and I've a little more practice, so I want to be able to revisit these things. But you had shared your comedy journey and your time as, always being a bigger girl and how that's affected your voice. One thing that I've learned is that we have lots of awkwards to own, and so maybe there's other things to talk about. Maybe there's deeper ways to talk about that subject or other things that have developed where, it's like, yeah, you know, 6 years ago, this is where I was at in my journey with this. And now what else has come up? So just love to hear where you're at, what's going on. Tell us how things have developed, first of all, because we just have done some shows together and toured together.
Right. Right. Well, first of all, I'm still fat. So there's that. Nothing has changed there. Um, things are a lot different now in many, many ways. It's like 6 years ago. Like I was
Yeah,
still walking around then, I think.
I believe so.
I think I was still walking around. Now I was probably still blonde then too. I don't know. But I'm in a scooter now. I'm in a mobility scooter all the time. And that has changed a lot of things. So, and a lot of those things, I don't want to say they're related to being fat, but they coexist right next to each other. And a lot of the difficulties with one are also a difficulty with the other one.
Sure.
So it's
Yeah.
like, not only am I a big person and I have to navigate a space as a big person, but now I also have big equipment that comes with me.
Right.
And it really limits a lot of the things that I can do or can do comfortably.
Hmm.
And so that has really been I don't know. Something I don't want to say that I struggle with, but it's something that I have to always think about.
Hmm.
So we've been doing a lot of shows, but like we just recently did a tour, a little mini tour together, and my TikTok. Do you ever know that
You
if you
got
leave
stuff going on.
TikTok, if you leave a TikTok just sitting on your screen, after a certain amount of time, it starts playing by itself again.
Oh, funny. I haven't experienced
Yeah.
that yet.
Yeah. So that's what that was. So I apologize. But so like when we plan the tour, like I have to make sure that the venue I can get in first of all.
Mhm. Yeah.
That if I can't that hopefully I can get on stage. But if I can't get on stage, is it comfortable for me to be in front of the stage?
Hmm.
Then we got to find a hotel that has like a handicap bathroom and stuff like that. So I mean, it's just planning a tour plus having to plan some extra stuff on top of it.
Right. And that's not even that tour that we did was a road trip. So we had your own car. And I know that you've had some things where you're out of town and where you have flown and don't have your own transportation. And that's a whole extra thing, getting a
It is.
taxi that's accessible.
Yeah, I think the longest wait so far has been 3 hours that I had to wait for a
Wow.
cab to come and get me, except for the time in Vegas when I got stranded overnight
That
because
is
there just were no wheelchair cabs that were working. So luckily you can sit in a casino all night, and
right.
nobody's
But
gonna kick you out.
and it's fortunate that that was the place you were in. But if you were in a business that, was closing or wasn't open
Well,
24 hours like other
when I was
times,
in Austin,
yeah.
I went and did comedy down in Austin and did a show at a movie theater. And then while I'm waiting for a cab to come get me, the movie can't talk. The movie theater closed. Everybody left. The lights went out.
Yeah.
And
And
there
here,
I am sitting in a dark parking lot somewhere I don't know, all by myself. And I
yeah.
think I almost got murdered. So,
Yeah, that's scary. One thing, being as close as we are, I have a different insight to the whole um visibility to being with someone as a close friend who has a disability and has needs that we have to plan for and encounter. And I have to say, no matter what someone has going on in their life, there's a difference between being aware. And I think about times where it's like, oh, I felt like I was aware of things, or I felt like I was um, being somewhat helpful or, you know, not just completely aloof to obstacles. But it's a complete difference when you are walking down a street for a mile or so, like on the strip, for example, and you're like, oh, we can't cross here. We've got to go. Like, it's like I all of a sudden become way more aware, or how many people are just stepping in front of your scooter as you're driving along, or
mm,
doors are opening the wrong way for where it's like this is a whole hassle.
right, right. Yeah. And I mean, hanging out with you enough that you are like one of the top three people I know that's really good about thinking about like not inviting me to a place that I can't get into, or like you're very good about knowing, oh, there's a lot of room in this place where you can get around. And I really appreciate that as a friend and just as a human.
Yeah, and I
So,
do try to be aware, but then I also have this guilt of like, man, how ignorant was I at times where it's like, and you just have to continue to grow and do better. We have to be willing to learn and improve how we are as a person. But, I sometimes wonder if I wasn't as close with you, if I would be as considerate, like just not meaning to be inconsiderate, just not realizing that I was,
right, right. One time I went on a little road trip with a couple other comedians,
hmm
and I think we were in Portland. Yeah, I think Spokane. I don't know where the hell we were. We were out of town. And they were meeting some friends at a bar. And
hmm
we even had the discussion about it needs to be wheelchair friendly.
Right.
So then I had to go run back to the car to get something. Went to meet them at the restaurant, and they're all sitting at a high bar table.
Yeah.
And so
Right.
then I have to. So it's like I'm at the kiddie table, basically sitting next to them. I was really mad. Like
Right. Especially when you've had the conversation up front.
I was so mad that they still talk about how bad they felt that day.
Oh
So
no. Well,
yeah,
and you help them learn a lesson.
right,
And one of
right.
the things that is that I've learned is there are levels of accessibility. It seems like there are, people think, okay, well, is this place wheelchair accessible? And I think that on the very basic level, you think, is there a ramp to get in, or at least not a step to get in that any cart could
Right.
just roll right into? But then it's like, but is it really a comfortable or welcoming space for someone with that need? And if all of the tables are high tops, for example, then are you really going to feel comfortable or welcomed or wanting to be there? Or
Well, how can I eat when the table's way up here to me?
right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have to hold my food like this, like a fat person on an airplane has to.
Well,
So,
and
it's everywhere. It's everywhere. But I have found though that as far as like awkwardness and how the public treats me, that I thought it was going to be when I started using a scooter, I thought it was going to be, oh, you're so fat. That's why you're on a scooter. You're not handicapped. You're just fat. I
mm,
don't get that. What I do get, which is funny, is that people don't really call me fat anymore. But like I'm saying, social media, I'm talking social media.
okay,
Like I
sure.
do those cut videos that millions of people see, and
Hmm.
it's just one comment after the other. She says she's a stand-up comedian, but she can't stand up. Like 100, they'll just
Yeah.
everybody thinks that, oh, I just made a funny joke, I'm going to type it in, but it's like so many people say it. But that's the biggest thing that I get.
Wow.
Stand-up comedian that doesn't stand up. So okay, whatever. But um at least most of them aren't calling me fat anymore. Like,
Well, at least
yeah.
across that off the list. Oh gosh. Well, and one thing that has been interesting as an outside perspective to watch the transition over the last few years of how you've been on stage. Number one, you've had incredible growth. I've always thought you were hilarious, but you're just at a level now that is a different level of professionalism. And I saw a time where you see the progression of bringing the scooter to the show, but then still going up to stage, or like seeing that time where you had to go, you know what? I'm staying in the scooter. What was that decision like to where now you open with jokes about I'm in this scooter and you're on like the disabled list show, which is a great show in Seattle area that has really has everybody on with different types of things at play. But what was that like to make that decision to go, this is part of me and this is going to be part of my comedy and part of my approach now?
Well, it's hard because first of all, there are some places that are really good places to play that I just can't do that. So I have
Mhm.
to physically suffer and do, if I got to walk up those 5 stairs, I'm not always sure I'm going to make it up there.
Wow.
I think it's only the adrenaline of that I'm doing a show is what gets me up those stairs.
Hmm.
So I only do that now when I have to because it's not worth hurting myself over or
Right.
falling and making it really bad. So I always have the preference of staying in the scooter just for safety reasons.
Yeah.
Um, but it makes other people uncomfortable because sometimes they realize, oh, my venue's not accessible, and they kind of feel bad about that,
Hmm. Yeah.
or they don't. I don't know.
Hmm.
And then I kind of felt like I'm not trying hard enough.
Mm.
There's that feeling of if you stay in your wheelchair, you're not trying hard enough. You're not
Interesting.
trying to uh, walk as much as you can, or but when your legs are shaking like this, you don't want to be standing on stage going
Yeah.
like, am I going to fall? Is my knee going to give out? Like, it's scary.
Hmm.
So it just had to come to the point where uh, the fear and discomfort physically outweighed the fear and discomfort mentally of what were people going to say.
Sure. Yeah, I think that's a lot of things that we overcome come to a point of saying, you know what, this thing is scarier than not dealing with this part. And so I'm willing to do that. And I perform, I understand how it goes. A lot of people, they know, even if they're not professionally performers, they know how stressful that is to get up in front of people and talk. Is people's number one fear across the board in a lot of ways. And so to add anything else that's going to add stress, I can't imagine getting ready to go on stage with all the things that are already going through your head to put on a good show. Is there a decent sized audience there? Did I bring people? Did the venue bring people? Did I hope I didn't splash water when I was washing my hands and now my pants look like I wet myself. Like all these things that are going through your head when you get on
Right.
stage. Is my hair right? Just having that one more thing, which is a huge thing. Like there has to be some freedom to take that off the table, but also that stress that's still there in those times where you are still having to walk those stairs.
But you know what is funny? Sometimes when I go into a venue in my scooter, and it's usually young guys. I'll see some young guys, and I see them do the, oh, look, there's a fat lady in a scooter, thinking I'm just in the audience or whatever. They're just making fat jokes, I can tell. And then I go up. It's my turn to go up, and I just blast that room.
Mm-hmm.
And then I just see the faces change, like, whoa, like I wasn't expecting that from her. So there
Yeah.
is that element that I've got a big surprise for you if you think whatever your assumptions are about me sitting
Mm-hmm.
here.
Yeah. And there's something about that where you're helping someone change their mindset. And we can argue all day long about how rude it was that they were in that headspace in the first place, but you kind of stuck it to them.
Right, right. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what I was thinking about today? That I would say I'm pretty brave. I do travel by
Yeah.
myself in a scooter, sometimes with two suitcases and
Mm-hmm.
a CPAP machine and an extra bag. And, and that's a lot.
Yeah.
It's a lot. And sometimes it's very overwhelming, but I do it. And I go
Mm-hmm.
to Vegas by myself a lot. And I have one thing left that I haven't really overcome. And I just today thought about this. Like, this is what I would really like to work on
Mm-hmm.
is that I don't mind going into okay, first of all, let me just preface this. In Las Vegas, a lot of people that don't really need scooters rent scooters as a group and ride them around for fun,
Mm-hmm.
which then makes all the restaurants think most people that are here don't really need their scooters. So we're going to ask people to park their scooters outside. So they're
Right.
always trying to get me to get out of my scooter. And that just makes me really mad. Like,
Yeah.
I need this. I'm not
Mm-hmm.
here playing.
Right.
So I hesitate going into restaurants by myself in Vegas.
Mm.
I typically, if I'm by myself, go get food, eat it in my room. So there's a lot of restaurants I've wanted to try that I've been afraid to try by myself. And I need to overcome that. So I'm going to pick a restaurant that I would like to try next time I go by myself. And I'm going to sit there because I I deserve to eat out in public just like everybody else.
You
And if they
absolutely
have to
do.
move a table or something to make room for me, then I guess they're going to have to do that.
Mm-hmm.
But that takes a lot. That takes a lot to get
Yeah.
in the mindset because a lot of people don't even like to eat by themselves anyway, just period in a
Sure.
restaurant. So I'm stealing myself up. That's my next goal that I'm gonna work on.
I love that. And I think it shows too, like it's interesting to me to hear you talk about that. And from the outside looking in, anybody who's like, man, she seems totally comfortable in that scooter. She's up on stage. She's doing stand up in the scooter, like all of the things. And yet, here's the most basic thing that you're not comfortable approaching. That, like you said, everyone deserves to be able to go into a restaurant they want to and just be like, find me a seat.
Right, right. Well, I'm gonna tell a story
Mm-hmm.
real quick about a time that I was doing a private show with someone. We were outside. It was outside. They had a beautiful house on the lake, and it was a birthday party, and they had all this fancy food and everything in there. And I didn't want to go in there and use the bathroom because I didn't want to get. Sometimes when you're riding a scooter, you have to go through mud and lawns and
Sure.
get dirt on the wheels. And I didn't want to go in their perfect house and get dirt on the floor. And I was worried about, is their bathroom accessible? Like, there's just too much worse. I'm holding my pee. And I said to the comedian that I had with me, oh, I gotta go to the bathroom. And he said, go in there and go. And I'm like, I don't want to get the floor dirty. And he said, Cheri, you are a celebrity. All these people paid to see you. You deserve to go to the bathroom.
Right.
And so that's a phrase that I use, and you use this with me all the time.
Mhm.
Like, I'm a celebrity. I deserve to go to the bathroom. And
Right.
even if I wasn't a celebrity, I would still deserve to go to the bathroom.
That's
But
true.
it's just kind of a mindset that I have to give myself. Like, I deserve this. I'm a celebrity. I'm a person. I have value. I'm going to go to the
Yeah,
bathroom.
exactly.
So,
And it's both like I know when we banter about that, it's like kind of a funny reminder and we can have fun with it. But at the same time, it's sad that we forget that we put our place in such a small space that we deny ourselves basic human needs just out
mhm,
of not wanting to intrude.
right, right. And one reason, a lot of reason why a lot of old people like die and stuff like in the summer is because they don't want to drink water because they don't want to have to get up and go to the bathroom
Yeah.
because it's so difficult. So it's like, um, it's just funny how people don't stop and think about how just simple, basic things like that are really hard for some people to do.
Yeah.
So make your bathrooms friendly, first of all. I,
Right.
I went in one the other night, and here's this big stall, and they have a cabinet in there. Like, I couldn't even put my scooter in there. And even if I could, then the door opened in. So you could
Right. And
have a handicap stall that you can't
that
get
was
away.
one thing I was not aware of was things like, are the stall doors opening the right direction? Because like you say, you can't go in there if you're in a mobility scooter or a wheelchair or any sort of mobility device and then be able to close the door behind you.
Right. So at this place, I just parked my scooter in the doorway and peed with the door open. It's like, if I guess, But anyway, so there's a lot of things that are different or that are hard. And I want really anybody who overcomes those little things to be really proud of themselves because there's so many, there's
Hmm.
so many things that are affected that overcoming one of them is like, I mean, it's a big deal to stand
Right.
up for yourself and say, I deserve to go to the bathroom. I deserve to eat with everybody else.
Hmm.
It's unfortunate that, it has to be that way, but I've had a lot of people say to me that I've opened their eyes to many things that they didn't know before
That's good. That's
about the
making a huge difference.
so.
And there's both I think about different angles where one thought that comes to mind is how many people have disabilities that we don't see. And I know that gets a little more voiced now than it used to, but like we don't know what's going on behind the scenes with
Mhm,
people. So
mhm,
there's that to remember, but also, um, we might see people and feel like they're in whatever space they are, or they are comfortable in the space that they're in, and not know that that person who's, sitting at the hostess desk waiting to get a seat at the table, that this is one of the most stressful things because this is her trip to Vegas where she's like, I'm gonna at least go to one restaurant and sit down.
mhm,
And like we don't know how hard that struggle is for somebody, no matter how long they've been dealing with whatever they have going on.
mhm. Right. Well, and then I did eat at a restaurant in Vegas, just a sports bar, not that long ago. And then another woman came in a wheelchair and they put her like right next to me. So it was like the wheelchair section.
Oh
And
gosh.
yeah, so apparently we're supposed to all be best friends because
Right.
we
They're
all
like,
are,
"Oh, you
you know,
must know each other."
exactly.
Oh, goodness. Yeah, and that's it's hard. So what can people do? Like I know we made a video when we were on tour where you were kind of stuck with something and I was like videoing you. You're like, really, you're gonna videotape me and not help? And because there is that line of, you know, people are not people don't need to be patronized or talked down to or like, oh my God, can I like I've seen both sides where people are overly helpful as if like you can't handle anything, whereas if you don't deal with your scooter every day, and then people basically slamming a door in your face, where it's like, really, can we? What should people do? What's the right approach? What is helpful? What's not?
Do you need any help? Or what can I do to help?
Okay,
Because a lot of times people go to open a door for me, but they stand in the doorway. That's not helpful.
right,
Because now I not only have to try and gauge if I could fit through there, I got to worry about your feet.
yeah,
So it was a lot easier when it was just me going through this door, and I know you're trying to help, so I'm not going to be rude to you. But you just made it harder for me.
yeah,
I have a brain. You can ask me if I need help. I will tell you if I do.
hmm,
I'll usually try to do it myself first, unless I'm with you, and then I'll be, Andy, can you pick that up for me? But like if you weren't there, I would try to pick it up myself or whatever.
right,
Uh,
yeah,
but yeah, just ask.
hmm, and that's a good thing to I think remember. Just we go into such of our own headspace of what's the right thing to do? How am I supposed to handle this? That we forget there's a human in front of you that you can communicate with.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And just and if someone says, I don't want your help, I'm fine, don't sit there and judge how easy it is for them to do that because that's how they want to handle that situation.
Right. Yeah. I like to usually do things by myself unless it's, like when I go somewhere with my husband, he puts the scooter on and off for me
Hmm.
because it's hard. But if I'm by myself, I can do it.
Right.
And if I got someone who's willing to do it for me, then I'm going to let him. So
Sure.
I think
And also
that's
it's different when it's your husband doing it and he knows what he's doing, he's not going to mess anything up versus
right.
someone else
Yeah. A lot of
touching your
times people
stuff.
want to help and they don't know how to help.
Yeah. Yeah.
The ladies at the nail salon have gotten really good though about moving my scooter. Like they let me pull up to the chair and then they park it somewhere.
Oh, nice.
And they're really getting good at it. And they're all proud of themselves when they can get it over without breaking anything. So,
Yeah. So how can you tell or how do you judge a business, on where they've done just the basics versus where they really do seem to be caring about making it a welcoming space?
um, I think it comes down to I think that just the main things like, can I get in?
Hmm.
Can I get out? Uh, is the bathroom usable? Like, bathroom door should not open in, it should open out. There should not be anything in the wheelchair space.
Hmm.
The problem really is sinks. I don't know how to fix that because it's really hard to wash your hands in there. But it's nice to have some paper towels down
Hmm.
on the like edge of the sink or something rather than all of them being way up here.
Right.
Just can a person go in? I would say get in a wheelchair, find one, borrow one, go into your business and see what you can reach and what you can't.
That's a
Uh,
really good.
Maybe have a couple tables that are good for wheelchairs to have room around.
Hmm.
Just kind of keep that in mind, and so that when someone in a wheelchair comes in, you're not like, "Oh my God, where are we going to put?" And often I've been treated like pain in the oh God, you just gotta let me figure it out. Remember we went to that puppetry of the penis thing?
Yep. That
We were
was
in
the
Vegas. We
worst
went to
example.
puppetry of the penis. And it was in this, what's the name of that? It's a sex store, like a two-story
Yeah, it's like
sex
got a museum thing
sex
attached to it.
museum, right? And but a store also. And they have the show Puppetry of the Penis there, and we went there. Well, that was my birthday weekend.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was on my birthday, I think, even.
Hmm.
And I tried when I bought the tickets, I tried to get like handicap tickets, but I think there was no option for that. So we showed up. I mean, they acted shocked, like that I was there in a wheelchair, and it was kind of like, oh great, we just set all the chairs up now, and then she said, I'm gonna let you deal with this shit while I go blah blah blah, and like gestured at us like we were this shit.
Yeah.
That was so. It wasn't humiliating. I didn't feel humiliated. I just felt mad.
Mm.
you know how mad I was. I
Oh
was,
yeah.
and I felt, I mean, I guess I felt a little degraded, but more it was like, what a piece of shit human she is that she
Right.
just treated me like this. And I was like, oh, I'm just sitting there. I didn't say anything for a long time because I'm like,
I know I was
I'm
so
gonna,
shocked, and Carol said something.
yeah,
She
she
was like,
spoke up.
hell no. And I was like,
Yeah,
thank God. And then I'm like, I was like, oh man, this is apparently when you learn about yourself on how you deal with situations.
right. So, yeah, so we got that taken care of. We got our money back on that one, but
Mhm.
it took a while. But it was like, yeah, so don't treat a handicapped person if it throws off your chair. And it was not. They were like
They weren't
fold
even
up
hard to move.
chairs,
That was the thing. It
right?
was like you have to pick
Just
up
move
one
two of them
two
or one
pound. They
of
were the
them,
cheapest folding chairs I've ever seen.
right?
It's like this is not hard.
Right. So be prepared so that you don't look like an idiot who is caught by surprise and doesn't know how to deal with it.
Right. And at least from my perspective, a simple, oh man, I gotta go move a chair. I got something
Right.
in the way. Let me deal with that. Totally different conversation than,
Right.
well, what are you even doing here? Which is the way it came
Right.
across.
Well, the other thing I noticed, and this is just for like old people or people with walkers, um, the server will take them on this long trip to the back of the room and around the
Hmm.
corner to seat them. And it's like, can you see that they're struggling to
Right.
walk?
Like
Why don't you sit them closer to the front?
yeah,
Like,
like what good does it do to
geez,
have the parking reserved as close to the front door if you're gonna walk them a quarter mile around the
right.
restaurant?
Yeah. So I don't know. People just got to think. And I mean, it's a matter of exposure. Before
Hmm.
Andrew was in a wheelchair, I didn't know any of this stuff. I
Yeah.
had to learn it. Like, oh my God, I didn't realize how hard it was to push a wheelchair and have to pull a door open and
Right.
then get them in the door without I got a
Hmm.
lot of injuries from that kind of stuff. So,
Yeah. Now I know you talked about venues a little bit. How is that journey when you are a performer and you have venues where they may say they're accessible, but maybe not for the performer?
right. Well, I'm going to say that more are not accessible than are,
Hmm.
but maybe not. Maybe it's changing. It saddens me because it makes me feel like I don't matter,
Hmm.
that they never in a million years thought like a person with a disability was going to get on their stage. Well,
Right.
it's 2024. Like, I know several wheelchair comedians all throughout the United States, not just me, or people
Hmm.
with other disabilities. I'm just talking wheelchair, but any other physical disability
Sure.
or that's, mobility at all. So, um, we've seen places, let's be careful here, but uh, be closed and do a little remodeling and not add a ramp.
Yeah, which would be so easy.
Right.
I think about like when I was putting together my talks and looking at places, and I look at the Blue Mouse Theater here in town, because one of the things that I go to in my head a lot of times, and I think this is used a lot as an excuse where it's like, oh, well, it's a historic building or it's an old place, and so that wasn't thought of when they built it, which there are very few spaces where they can't modify it enough to at least put a ramp in, like that are so historic. I mean,
Or even a lift.
yeah. I mean,
Or
I look at
like
the Blue
at
Mouse, and that's a historic building, and they have a ramp.
right,
Like they saw that as a need and valuable, and figured out a way to
right.
put a ramp to the stage.
Well, and not only that, but sometimes people have props and backdrops and stuff that
Yeah,
need to be wheeled up onto the stage. So
right.
just even for that sense, it makes sense,
Well, yeah,
So
yeah, and there are
yeah,
people too with, um, maybe they're not in a mobility device, but maybe they don't, maybe they need to be able to wheel something up because it's too heavy for their back and they
right,
can't
right,
carry it
right.
upstairs. So,
Well, then the other thing is a lot of times when people are filming, everybody can be seen on the videos, and then it's my turn and my head's way down here. Everybody else's head was right in line.
Yeah, they didn't adjust the camera, or it's just at a set preset
Hmm.
thing.
So there's a
Yeah.
lot of videos of just my head, but that's okay. I mean, at least I'm on stage, we're working on it, but I guess it's just saddening sometimes when you don't see any effort being made or any care or worry about it at all.
Hmm. Yeah, and I think that's ultimately what it comes down to is, are people showing that they care? Are they putting in an effort? Sometimes it's like, man, this isn't fixed. I want to get this fixed. This is what we have to deal with, but are we doing everything we can? I know that you had a show where they brought a ramp to the show because the regular access was not available.
That's happened more than once. They did that for me up at Marie Elizabeth is the one that made sure to get a ramp for the Shanghai room.
Mm-hmm.
And when the lift was broken at
Like Minimans.
Minimans,
Yeah.
they got a huge scary ramp for me that night. Um, because
Mhm.
they're nice and they have brains. It's like when Jai Tai was open, all
Mhm.
the producers there were like, we want our wheelchair performers to be able to get up on stage because you can get in front of this. I can sit in front of the stage on a floor on a totally different level of everybody else, and I can engage that audience.
Mhm. Yeah.
But there is a certain amount of power that is lost.
Yeah. Well, even, I remember going through comedy class and them talking about not leaving the mic stand in front of you on the stage. Just that, as skinny as the mic stand is, when you take the mic out of it and you're walking around behind it and you don't move that behind you, that is enough of a barrier to be distracting to the audience, let alone not even being on the stage or,
Right. Right.
so yeah. Well, this is such an important topic. I love seeing you on stage and seeing the positive impact you're making just across the board, not just, in the comedy scene, but all over. But before we, get out of here, you've got some cool stuff going on. You got your podcast, you got your shows that are going on the road, plus people can book you for private events. Tell us all the things, Cheri. Like, what do people need to know? How can they support you?
First, I want to give a shout out to all the comedy clubs that do have accessible stages because they're invaluable. So, yay.
Yes, thank you.
Nate Jackson, Super Funny Comedy Club. We were just there last night. I do a podcast called Diary of an Ex-Ho, and it's where I talk to comedians about their love lives. Well, we have a live comedy show version of this, and this is what we toured with over when was it? The summer, the fall?
It
When
was
was
in
it? Spring?
March. It was
It
in
was the
March down
spring.
in
Yeah, I like.
Oregon. Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah. Uh, the live comedy show version is really fun and it's
Hmm.
kind of interactive with the audience. Now I've got the Hustler store on board to provide audience prizes, little support there. So that's really great. You can find me always at cherihardman.com. Everything is always there, the links to any shows. Uh,
Yeah, and you always have, and the thing is, always check back, follow Cheri on social media because sometimes shows get booked and they're this weekend or they're, so keep an eye on what she has going on because sometimes you'll know months out and sometimes it's, oh, there's an opening or there's something going on or someone just decided to do something. And
right.
I love that. And Diary of an Ex-Ho, where do we find that?
YouTube, you can find it on any podcast platform, but YouTube is where we start, where we go, and take it from there. I like people to be able to see who's talking.
Hmm.
I found
Yeah.
out some really interesting things about people that not everyone that looks, I don't know, people's looks are deceiving sometimes. So it's really interesting to
Mhm.
see what you're hearing.
Yeah, I could see that. Um, it's been intriguing to listen to because there are people that I don't know at all that are on your show, and then some people that I have met or know a little bit more, and there's always a surprise.
Well, yeah, and it's really interesting because sometimes I think, oh, this person, their podcast is going to kill it. And then they hardly get any views. And then this person who's very unassuming gets a bunch of views. And it's like, I don't know how that works.
I know.
But
I wish I could figure out the math on that. I had a guest on a couple weeks ago on my show and was telling her that, yeah, I've got these couple episodes that did really well and these that are kind of like, yeah. And I said, but every month, every episode gets at least a view. Like all 100 and some episodes every month, they're all getting some attention. So I always am kind of reminding guests, like, make sure people know, like, this, even if you're watching this 4 years later, go to cherihardman.com and you'll see the current stuff. Don't worry if you miss this week's show. And she said, well, what's the common denominator in those shows that get more views versus less? I wish I knew. I would love to have that answer because they would all be getting a lot of views if I knew that.
I know. I thought mine were just, it was the females that were getting really good. Well, nope. Bunch of guys just really killed it too. So who knows? But hey,
maybe it's the host.
I don't know. But let me just say before we go one thing. Last night there was a man that was I guess we'll say he was inappropriate with me. It wasn't inappropriate to me because I love that kind of stuff, but he was all over me. But the first thing he said to me was like, "Ooh, you're cute." And that just, I feel like $1,000,000 today. So maybe other women don't like it when strange men flirt with them and give them hugs and stuff, but bring it on because I have just felt so happy and full of myself today.
Well, and the thing is, I think there's a balance, right? Of like, okay, is the person accepting the attention? Then
Right.
that's, and if someone
Right.
says, I'm not into it, then move on.
Yeah.
But yeah, but we shouldn't be afraid to compliment people because some people might go for weeks or months without ever getting a compliment like that. And if someone isn't giving it just because they're afraid of how it's going to be received, how many times have you been robbed of having those great days where you're like, oh, I'm feeling it?
Yeah. So just mark that down that you can compliment me whenever you want.
Perfect. Okay, so for the people out there listening, what should they be doing to lean into being okay with who they are, owning their awkward? What's a thing they could do this week just to embrace it a little bit?
Maybe find that one thing that you're a little bit afraid of, like going to a restaurant by yourself, whatever it is, just one thing, and do it. Just make yourself do it. And I think you'll feel a lot better about yourself once you've done it. And it might just be like, I'm going to go outside today and walk down the street and come back. I don't know what it could be.
Right. It doesn't have to be huge. And
right.
Big for one person might be small for another. And those two people could trade things, and the other person's small thing is the other guy's big thing.
Right.
Yeah. I'm
not sure.
I'm gonna let that one go. You can tell we do comedy and it's not clean.
Yeah, we're very well behaved today, I gotta say.
I know. I'm just like, wow, we were so PC.
I don't think we even swore.
No, but you said penis a few times.
I did?
The puppetry of the penis, that was all.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Not that I was tracking, but gay me over here like, oh, huh? What'd you say? Way to finish it on a high note.
Yeah. All right. Well,
anyway, thank you so much, Cheri. I appreciate you being here.
It was fun. Love you. Bye.
Love you too. Thank you so much for listening in for today's show. Be sure to visit awkwardcareer.com to continue your journey. And of course, please like, subscribe, and share with your friends so they can find their awkward side and learn how to own it.